lessons, all things positive and building a better you. Hi, my name is Rob Robertson. I'm the owner of My Warrior Ethos Life Coaching. Glad to be with you again. I'm doing a shameless plug tonight for my normal company, Barnett's Towing and Propane. Sorry, I couldn't wear some of my normal My Warrior Ethos gear, but I had some business I needed to take care of with them today out in the field, and so I needed to look like an actual professional from Barnett's today. So, but I do have my submarine pin over here, and I got my American flag over here. I'm still representing my veteran brothers and sisters. Both those, even though they're not veteran, I guess technically veterans yet. Those on active duty and those who are have EAOS and gotten out and retired and disabled and whatever. So I'm still representing you guys every day. And you guys are never far from my thoughts. The people that I served with, and the people that still continue to serve today, and those that even came before me. My uncles and my dad, and all those people who were in the military back in the day. I thank every one of you for the service that you gave. I'm kind of rambling a little bit. I kind of had to jump right in. My butt literally hit the chair about 30 seconds before it was time to go on, so a little rattled. So just kind of bear with me here while I kind of refocus a little bit. Hope everybody's had a good couple of weeks. Hope the last session we did on wills and estate planning and life planning in general was useful for you. If you get a chance, make sure you check in down here and find out about those seminars that they're going to be giving. They do them about 3 out of the 4 Mondays a month from what I gathered last night. They're all very useful. The one next Monday, the 24th, is just going to be on general veterans benefits. So if you're curious about what your veterans benefits are, be here at the Warrior Healing Center next Monday at 6 p.m. and check in and come and hear what you may or may not be eligible for and how you can get to it. Those are important things. Those are benefits that you earned as a service member. So don't walk away from them. Get in here and find out how do you fill out the paperwork and how do you get those benefits and stuff that when you signed your contract, was at the end of all this, you signed a contract, a blank check up to including your life to the U.S. government. And, there's some things that come with that at the end of it. So you need to get in here and find out, what are the things that you're eligible for? That I can't overstate that. They can be very valuable to your life and can be very valuable to your family's life. So make sure you're getting in here to get your see what benefits you're eligible for. Other than that, I hope everybody had a good couple of weeks since then. I haven't had too much going on, just general work. Still getting set up over in the new house over in Tombstone. I shouldn't say it's a new house. We've been in there about a year, but I finally moved over about 2 months ago after we shut down the bed and breakfast portion of it. So still kind of getting set up over there and getting into a routine. It's always fun getting that going on. Finally got some of the last of the paperwork I needed to get done today for my doctorate program at Liberty University. So that's in process. I was supposed to have everything done by tomorrow, but it's looking like it's going to be real tough to meet that deadline. I do some things that I didn't understand with them. So probably won't make the May 15th class. It'll probably be, I think the next one after that's July 15th. So that's probably going to be the one I'm going to have to get into. A little disappointed about that, but hey, I'll get part of my summer off before I got to go pell-mell into getting more classwork done. So anyway, with that being said, I want to talk about reality versus perception. Okay, and last night when I was at the will seminar, I've had a couple incidents in the last week that have really made me take and think about reality versus perception, or perception versus reality. And last night at the wills thing was where it really kind of hit home, because my perception was that although I needed to get some stuff done, it really wasn't as big a task as what I had anticipated. And I got a reality check out of that after it was all said and done. So my perception was that the only thing I really needed to take care of was the bigger items. I've got 2 homes, I've got numerous vehicles, property that I need to get adjudicated so I know who it's going to and who it's not going to as far as family members go to. So I thought that this would, be a few minor items that would be in that I would need to get written up, get put into a will, get a lawyer or a paralegal, or just get it, notarized. That'd be the end of it. I'd be done with it. The reality turned out to be that there's a lot of stuff you don't consider whenever you're doing this, and one of them is, well, who's going to take care of all that? And there's a whole bunch of other little things that you don't consider that continue on after you die. So, for example, who shuts down your Netflix account? Who shuts down your Hulu account? Does your house have utilities going into it? Who takes over that, or does it need to be continued taken over? Not necessarily, but how are you going to give your house to somebody else? But what goes into that? What goes into getting your house to that person, and then what responsibilities are they going to have after that fact? So it's not just as simple. The perception is that it's simple. You die, you have a will, the will gets read, and it's almost like watching a movie. You die, the will gets read, and all the items in it says, well, this person gets that, and this person gets this, and so on and so forth. But it's not that simple. There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to go into it. And again, I do recommend coming and attending that class. It's just a couple of hours. Just as a side note, it's going to be information overload, but it's something you need to come and do, because your perception is that, well, there's not that much to take care of, but the reality is there's a whole bunch more that goes into it. And so another thing that came up this past week, my perception versus my reality. My perception is, and you guys know how positive an individual that I can be if you've tuned in a lot to the show. You know that, my perception is that, as long as I maintain my health, as long as I maintain my positive mental attitude, that I continue to push forward, that I'm making strides in my everyday life, that my perception is that everything is okay and everything's hunky-dory, and I don't really have anything to worry about in terms of my depression or my PTSD. My reality, last Wednesday, I'm not ashamed to admit that I did have an episode with my PTSD. It turned out that my heart rate started to how it got started was when Tuesday I'd been in to talk to Hero Paws. They're the ones that help set up for service animals, and I have a dog that I want to get set up as a service animal. And so anyway, what happened was we had talked about some of the events that I'd went to whenever I was in, and come Wednesday evening, apparently that discussion started to trigger the PTSD. My heart rate got elevated, and being up all night sick due to some what I feel is the physical effects of that PTSD being triggered. My perception is that I have all that under control. My reality is that both those issues, both the PTSD and the depression, are going to be with me till the day I die. And I got reminded of this in very stark reality on Wednesday, that I do a lot of good stuff, and protocol-wise, I was able to, because of what I do, to minimize the impact of the PTSD, and I was able to keep it down to about a 36-hour period that it affected me in total. But the reality is that those things still stick with me every day. And the effect of my PTSD and how I see it in my everyday life is with a hypervigilance. I'm incredibly hypervigilant. And not much passes by me. Now, part of that's because of the martial arts training I've had over the years, the security training I've had over the years, but at the same time, some of it relates back to the PTSD. If you look at that, that's one of the symptoms of PTSD is hypervigilance, and it's the one thing I probably see it come out in my life more so than anything else. So my reality is that it's still there, even though my perception is on a day-to-day basis that it's not something I have have to deal with on a minute by minute basis, or that's how I feel anyway, even though that I probably am, irregardless of whether I realize it or not. They always say that perception is 90% of reality, and maybe that is true to some degree, that how we perceive things is how we begin to do our day in, day out living. But the reality is probably that we get affected more by some things than our perception allows us to realize that we're being affected by it. Again, we start talking about PTSD, we talk about depression, we talk about chronic pain. A lot of people feel like, well, in my particular case, like I said, I do a lot of physical conditioning now to try to mitigate the pain level. I take medications. I do things that way it doesn't dwell on my mind. But the bottom line is that there's a lot of days whenever I go in and I go to bed after laying there for just a little bit, the pain is can be overwhelming, to put it mildly. And I find that more as I'm getting older, that when I do have the pain episodes, they're far worse than what they were 10 years, even 5 years ago. The biggest thing for me is I just don't let it beat me up in my head, as being stopping me from really doing anything. I found that, if I kind of push through, maybe the pain level still as high as it was, but I don't find that it really dictates to me what I can or can't do like I used to let it do. Is I just kind of push through and go ahead and get done what needs to get done, or do what I want to do. So again, the perception is, at least for my part of it, is that the pain is not that bad. Where the reality is, it probably is just as bad. It's just I don't let it beat me up as much as what I used to. So we deal with this thing about the perception versus the reality, and one of the things that you have to deal with, and of course, another issue is the anger issue. I think as veterans, very often we suffer from a lot of anger issues. Our perception is maybe that it's not bothering us as much, or it's not affecting others as much. I think that's another thing too. When we talk about PTSD, or we're talking about anger issues, or we're talking about depression, is we forget that how we act or interact with others affects them. So it may not be that the PTSD or the anger or the depression is affecting you any worse than it always has, but it may be affecting others around you. And so sometimes I think something that's hard to see for us as veterans is that, whoops, I think my flag's upside down. Wow, that's a real departure. Or get that right side up. Yeah, here I am talking about these really important things. The first thing I noticed, my flag's upside down. But anyway, we don't realize that how we are dealing with those issues are affecting those around them. They can affect our personal relationships. They can affect our professional relationships. They can affect our growth and development in those relationships. They can even just our professional performance or our personal performance, whatever that can be, can affect all those things. And sometimes we don't see it. Our perception is that we're fine, when the reality is that we're suffering, and it's tough to mitigate that. So it's always good, I think, whenever we're talking about these issues, is to have an outside check. And so what do I mean by an outside check? Well, there's several different things, and I know we've covered this in the past. We've talked about it in the past with other seminars that I've done here, or other talks I've given on here. One of the things you can do is talk to a friend or family member. You can ask them just point blank, do you see a change in me, either positive or negative? Is there something I'm doing that maybe you can tell if you're upsetting somebody? I think sometimes you can ask them point blank, was what I'm doing upsetting you? And maybe they can tell you well, yeah, you're biting my head off, you're being angry with me, you're not communicating with me, those kinds of things that they can give you feedback on. Of course, another thing you can do is seek out individual counseling, and that can come from a professional. You can go to a life coach like myself. You can go go find a VA counselor, whatever that case may be, in order to to see what they're seeing from me. Hold on just a second. I know I'm getting some text here. And thanks there from, let me see if I can get this out of my way. Because I want to see what this text is that just came in. There we go. Okay, thanks, Kitty. I hope you don't mind me using your name for checking in. Yeah, the pain can be such a thing, and it does seem like it gets worse the older we get. Yeah, I mean, relying on, talk to God. That's another thing right there. Talk to God. He always listens. I'm not a super, okay. I will take that under advisement, see what I can't do for you. Kitty, if you want to, you can always email me or just call down here and ask to talk to me. They'll put you in touch with me. And you can find me on Facebook under My Warrior Ethos. You can also find me at Rob Robertson. Hey, reach out. I'll be happy to talk to you. And we'll talk until the midnight oil burns out. Trust me, this is what I do. This is what I like to do. Anyway, but find somebody you can talk to, find somebody you can connect with. A couple of things they have here. They go on Thursday nights. They have a group session. A group is where I got started. And let me go back, since I got some people maybe that don't know my story. About when I was in the Navy, I broke my back in a couple of different places. And I'm going to kind of rush through this a little bit, the whole story. My health continued to deteriorate from the time I got out until about 2010, when it really went off the rails. By 2013, I was in a pretty dark place. I met some guys with coaches serving. They had a booth set up for coaches serving veterans over at the college. They got me come to their group, started talking to them, and I'll be honest with you, things got worse before they got better. And anyway, group helped me start talking about the things that were affecting me in my personal life, as far as what had happened to me when I was in the service. Went through group for a number of years. About 2018, I finally got set up with the right physical therapist that got me on the right path as far as my physical health. Then I read a book. I always talk about I don't recommend books, but there is one book that I will recommend to anybody out there that's looking to make a change. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. There were two former Navy SEALs. They talk about their experiences in the military and how they related that to business, but it can also apply to your personal life. The best book I ever read. It did wonders for me to begin to make big changes in my life. And then the rest is kind of history from there. I finished my master's 2 weeks ago, or not 2 weeks ago, it's been 2 months ago now. Start my doctorate hopefully next month or the month after. So it's just a matter of you got to find somebody that can help you, and group is a great place to start. And when you go to group to begin with, you don't have to be the person that comes in, and nobody's expecting you to spill your guts out in group. I listened probably for the first 6 months before I really said anything, before I really talked about what I was going through and what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. It's good to go in there, but one of the great things about group is you find out you're not alone. You're not alone. I promise you, you are not alone. There are people out there suffering and going through the same things you are. And group is a great place to come and hear those stories and begin to understand that you aren't alone, and it's okay to feel the way that you feel. And then, next thing you know, you're talking and you'll feel much better. I promise you, by the end of it all, it will work out. So there's group on Thursday nights. I believe that one runs from 6:30 to 7:30 here at Warrior Healing Center. There's a group on Saturday mornings that runs here from 9:30 till roughly 10:30, 11 o'clock, depending on when all of us want to shut up. And if you want to come, and you're nervous about being here, reach out to me on my Facebook page and say, hey, man, I really want to come to group, but I'm nervous about being in there. And now, I'll be honest with you, usually on Saturday mornings, I'm struggling to get in here, and even struggling more now because I've been dragging the pup with me, and so the two of us come in and make everybody, we're personally responsible for making everybody's day brighter, just so we know that. Nudge, nudge. But anyway, let me know, and I'll come as my guest, and we'll sit in there, and we'll talk, and if you don't want to talk, just listen. That's all. That's where it all starts sometimes. And sometimes it just helps to listen and understand that there are other people out there struggling just as much as you are. Perception versus reality. Perception is I'm the only one dealing with this. The reality is, I promise you, in that room every Saturday, every Thursday night, there's anywhere between 5 or 10 people in there with the exact same struggles you have. Okay? Exact same struggles. All you have to do is be willing to come in there and spend a little bit of time. And like I said, it may take you may feel like sharing the next meeting. You may feel like sharing during that meeting. It may be 6 months down the road before you feel like sharing. But it's a place to start. It's a place to, start getting everything lined out. And but for God's sakes, don't, Veterans Crisis Hotline, another one. Worst case scenario, call the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Call the number down here at the bottom. Say, hey, Rob, I was watching Rob's show on Tuesday night, Level Up Live. He said this is a place I can call. Get this out. The two groups are held at right here, Warrior Healing Center. Usually we're either in the back conference room, or we're over here there's another side conference room. But you come in right in through the front doors. You can sign in right there. Check. There's usually a bunch of guys in and out. Just ask somebody if they're going to group. Worst case scenario, just let me know you're going to be here, and I'll meet you at the front door. Like I said, if I know somebody's coming and they want to see me, I'll make sure my butt's here by 9:30. I guarantee you that. I'll make sure I rack myself out and get my shower done and get here. Usually I don't make Thursdays because Thursdays I live in Tombstone. I get off at work at 5, so I'd have to hang around someplace for an hour and a half, and it wouldn't put me home until kind of late. So I don't usually make the Thursday night, but, again, another great place to come and listen to what people have to say and see what's going on. But again, don't ever be afraid to reach out for help. If you need it, you need it. And even me and my partner at work there, it's one thing we always push with the people that work for us. You're never alone, and you're always a phone call away from help. All you got to do is be willing to make the phone call. So anyway, so I've kind of spouted on that now, the perception versus reality bit. I was going to talk a little bit about, and it was something I started thinking about on the way over here, and it's something I've been thinking about this whole past week, particularly concerning my own struggles over the past week, is the fact that no matter what I do, those things are always going to be part of me. And so I have one of two choices as I see it. One of it is I can be very combative with it, okay? Now that's, in my opinion, that's bad, okay? Because then you're just creating stress that doesn't need to be there. What I chose to do when it particularly came to my progression with my disabilities, particularly with the depression, was I began to realize, or began to understand as time went by, that that this is a part of me. It's a part of my makeup. It's as much a part of the depression as much as a part of my makeup as my right arm is. Okay, now let me explain what I mean by that. Is because it's not going away. Okay, it's always going to be there. It's not something that you get completely rid of, but I don't have to let it rule me either. Okay. So it's kind of like the back injury that I have. Well, yeah, it kind of limits my abilities sometimes, but it doesn't really stop me from doing very much that I want to do either. I just have to be very careful, and I have to be thoughtful about what I want to do. Same thing, I know that certain things are going to trigger that depression, so I try to not get myself into those settings where I know it's going to be a trigger. So I've just kind of embraced it, and I like to treat the depression as like it's almost like a living entity. I think I've kind of pissed it off because I just don't let it bother me anymore. It's like, I still have my days where I want to isolate. My wife will tell you that that I kind of want to get away from it. But at the same time, I think it's good sometimes to unplug from everything for a little bit and kind of let yourself decompress. And you could say that's the depression, rule on what you're doing, but for me it's just a matter of giving it its due, and then once you kind of give it its due, it doesn't really have a whole lot of power over you, at least from my perspective anyway. Now, I can't say that's true for everybody else. And one of the things that we discuss a lot of group is each of us talk about the tools that every one of us uses to get around our specific issues and problems, whether it's depression, whether it's PTSD, whether it's chronic pain, whatever that is. Everybody has a tool that they use so that way it doesn't rule your everyday life. And so what I like to say is, granted, I can tell you my story and tell you the things that I use, and you may find something of there useful, but you may not be able to follow the exact same path that I did. So for me, immersing myself in work and immersing myself in study was what kind of got me back on the path, because I enjoy learning so much. So getting back into the classroom, although it was online, was really helpful over the last couple of years in kind of getting me squared away and squared around to the person that I wanted to be again. And so I'm at that point now where it's kind of like, okay, well, I could stop right here, but I thought, I'm real close to getting that doctorate. Man, that would be like the cherry on top of the cake on my way out of this life, of saying that, that I got my doctorate, that I was able to finish that. And I'm so excited about getting started on that program. I really can't tell you, to be a potential PhD student it's a long way to come, considering everything. And so it's I really feel as veterans, what happens to us sometimes when you get out of the military. One of the things that I think veterans are very good at is we tend to be very mission centered. And but if you don't get out and you don't have something to focus all that energy on, something to focus that mission center on, you have to focus. Where does all that energy go? It goes right back into yourself, and now you're just burning up from the inside out. There's nothing for you to focus that energy that you've always had on the mission. Now it's focused right back on yourself, and I think it has very negative effects for us when you don't have some kind of focus for that energy. And so it doesn't have to be school. Like for me, it was school. For me, it was work. I look forward to going into my job at Barnett's every day. I tell my boss this all the time, that I look forward to being there, even during the days when we're having bad days. I mean, I just I enjoy being at work, and being with the people that I work with. For you, it might be a hobby that you focus your energy on, or something within your religious community, something within your family community. You find that one thing that kind of makes you happy, and you focus on that. And it might take you a few tries, and you might find at the end of the day that it's going to take a number of different tools, maybe not just one tool. It may take 5 tools. It may take 10 tools to that you have to kind of move around, to prevent yourself from getting bored, or that one tool not working like you want it to. You may have to have a variety of tools. For me, that's kind of where I'm at. Not only do I have school that I work on, not only do I have my job that I work on, me and my wife have several different outside activities that we're involved in. You guys have heard me on here talk about Cochise County Sci-Fi and Beyond, or our sci-fi club. We have movie night out in Tombstone. Matter of fact, I got one coming up this Saturday. We're going to be showing Dreamcatcher out there. I mean, hey, if you're out and about, 1027 East Allen Street, feel free. The movie starts at 5:30. We'll be happy to have you come in and watch the movie with us. So we do movie night for Cochise County Sci-Fi and Beyond. You can find us on Facebook. We post our events on there, and we got people that we hang out with through that. We've hung out with, it's called Goose Flats Paranormal now. They're another group that we hang out with sometimes and have some good times. Another good friend of mine, Daniel Jackson, Spirit Medium Daniel Jackson, and his wife, or some other friends of mine. He does some events. You can find him on Facebook. Another great guy to hang out with, get to know. If you haven't had a reading, I recommend reaching out to him and getting a reading done. His rates are reasonable, and maybe he can help steer you in a direction you never thought about going before. So don't be afraid to reach out to him. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that I'm involved in. I play chess a lot. Matter of fact, I've ran 2 chess clubs before, and I'm getting ready to see about starting another one Me and my wife were talking about the other day. I'm going to see about reaching out over in Tombstone since I'm staying over there now all the time about getting another one started over there. So I keep my toolbox full is my point, and I keep plenty of stuff for me to do, so I'm not sitting around the house doing nothing. And when I can't find anything else to do, my wife will tell you, and she probably hates me for this, but I do play a lot of Madden on my PlayStation. So just so that way you know. Although I am kind of interested in my NBA 2K right now. I spend a lot of time playing that. Don't like watching actual real sports, but on my PlayStation, I'm a gamer. So anyway, so I've kind of went over that quite a bit. Let's get into the healthy, wealthy, and wise section tonight. You guys know I have beat you up show after show about too much sugar intake, your diet, how that's going to affect you, how it's going to make you feel. Unfortunately for me, I ran into a brick wall after losing about 45 pounds. But I can't tell if that's because my metabolism's not up there where it needs to be anymore because of my age. But and part of that too is because with the physical conditioning I do, I think I've packed on some muscle. So anyway, and I am keeping up with your text there, Katie, or Kitty. I'm sorry. I work with a Katie. That's where it threw me off. Sorry to see you're in South Carolina, but if you're ever in Arizona, stop by and pay us a visit. We'll be happy to have you. Anyway, then that's going to be one of the things I want to talk about on here. So too much sugar, not good for you. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, sugar-sweetened beverages are the leading source of added sugars in the American diet. So the sodas, the sugar teas, the stuff you can go buy it, out of the fountain drinks and stuff like that, very bad for you. 63% of kids and at least 50% of adults drink one sugared beverage a day. Think about that for a minute. One sugared beverage a day. And I would be willing to bet the numbers are probably higher if you did an actual deep dive. So some of the things we look at, weight gain. Remember that you're going to sit down and you're going to eat, and then if you drink a sugar drink, that's just going to add to the calories that you've already done. One 12-ounce can of soda provides about 150 calories and 10 teaspoons of added sugar. And if you drink 12 ounces of soda daily and don't cut back on other calories in your diet, you could gain up to 5 pounds in a year just from the sugary drinks. Stop and think about that. 5 pounds in a year just from sugary drinks. That is a lot. Sugar doesn't it can increase tooth decay and cavities. Now it doesn't increase the sugar itself doesn't do the damage, but what it does is it feeds bacteria that can. The sugar can feed bacteria and make acids stronger that wear down your teeth. So there's another thing, teeth decay, they're always talking about that. I know one of the bigger ones is that you hear about. Matter of fact, I watched a few years ago, they did a documentary on Mountain Dew in the Appalachian states and how a lot of the kids out there, their teeth are just basically gone because they drink so much Mountain Dew that damages their teeth. Liver problems. Excess sugar is turned into fat in your liver, which over time can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, make it hard to help your body naturally detoxify. So fatty liver disease from too much sugar. I'm telling you guys, the sugar is bad stuff. I never did realize how bad it was until I started looking at my diet. And it's almost like an addiction. If you ever noticed, go cold turkey on sugar for about a week, okay? And look at that doggone headache. I did this about 20 years ago. A bunch of us at a plant that I worked at went on that diet that they recommend for heart patients. That way you lose a lot of weight in a hurry. And one of the things they have you do is they have you stop all the sugary drinks and everything, and basically you're just drinking water. By that 5th day, I had a headache that was so bad it was unbelievable. And the amazing thing was, I went over and bought one soda and drank it, and within 30 minutes that headache was gone. That's how toxic, to use how toxic sugar is to your system. So yeah, think about that. Depression. A 2010 study of nearly 5,000 South Australian students showed a positive association between high soda consumption and mental health problems, including depression. Increased depression risk by 60%. Also increased anxiety. So, unfortunately, the other day, like I was telling you, I was having some anxiety with my PTSD. I probably could have exacerbated that just by drinking the soda. I might have even made it worse. Fortunately, I don't think I had one at the time. Anyway, yeah, watch. It definitely can affect you. And if as we all know, the depression and anxiety are a couple of the problems you can have with PTSD. So obviously, the sugar drinks can exacerbate that. It exceeds your recommended added sugar intake. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 25 grams of added sugar per day for women and 36 for men. And with only one can of soda, an average woman will have exceeded that recommendation by more than 50%. Wow. This can lead to weight gain over time and increase the risk of developing diabetes. I'm telling you, this stuff is bad. It may not seem like it. Leading cause of type 2 diabetes. Nice segue into that. It also contains the sugar drinks high fructose corn syrup. Research shows even consuming one regular soda per day can lead to type 2 diabetes. So even one per day can get you in a lot of trouble. Consuming 1 to 2 cans per day of sugary drinks can increase your development of type 2 diabetes by 26%. Heart disease. If it's going to increase to anything, it can lead to elevated triglycerides and LDL cholesterol. Soda is rich in sugar and can lead to heart disease if overconsumed. Research shows that the brain responds to sugar as it releases dopamine. Over time, we require more and more to feel the same pleasure. So like I was telling you guys, it's almost like when I was explaining to you guys about the idea of it being like an addiction. It even tells you that right here that sugar basically has the same effect on the body as it triggers the same pleasure centers as like narcotics do. So when you're drinking a soda, it can have the same effect on you as a narcotic when you're drinking it. So think about that the next time you're sprinkling a little extra sugar on that cereal, about the fact that it can have the same effect as a narcotic to you. And you get they say there's no such thing as a sugar high. Well, right here they tend to disagree with you. And this came from, let me see, where did this original study, or where did I get this? 10 Side Effects of Drinking Soda Every Day by Emily Schiffer. It's called Healthy Eating is the name of the website. Healthy Eating. May make you more likely to become obese. A recent study showed that those who drink sugary, sweetened beverages like soda with a genetic predisposition toward obesity were more likely to actually become obese. Of course, you're pouring sugar in, like we said, it's putting on an extra 5 pounds every time you're pouring that stuff down your throat. Definitely not good for you. What are some things you can do? I think the easiest one, drink water. Now, am I telling you not to drink soda at all? That's not what I'm saying, okay? I think everybody needs a holiday whenever it comes to your eating. We all want the bowl of ice cream for an occasion. There's nothing wrong with the occasional piece of cake. There's nothing, wrong with, a handful of M&Ms every once in a while. Just don't make a steady diet of it. As my dad always told me, all things in moderation. If you're doing things, obviously you're going to do some things that probably aren't as healthy for you as they should be. They say drinking, a glass of red wine is actually good for your heart. But if you drink 3 or 4 glasses of it at a time every night, that's probably not so good for you. So again, all things in moderation. I've heard that dark chocolate's good for you, particularly for pain. But if I sit down and drink a dark chocolate bar 3 or 4 times a day, that's probably not going to be good for me because of some of the sugar that comes with those dark chocolate bars. So, you got to think about these things. Think about what you're ingesting. There used to be an old saying about you are what you eat. And you can set yourself up to fail by doing some of these things. So, stop and take that extra beat. Is this really good for me? And look at your age and your activity level and all these other things. Are you doing enough to burn off, the stuff that you're eating? I mean, for me, what helped me lose the weight was I finally kind of looked at my calorie intake versus my calorie output. And at one point I found that they were way out of balance. Now they're pretty much on balance now, I think, and that's another part of the reason why I've kind of hit a bit of a brick wall with my weight gain and my weight loss, so to speak, at this point. Of course, again, too, I know I've packed on some muscle, so that's kind of balanced everything out. I'm smaller, but at the same time, I'm about the same weight, so. Muscle weight is way more than the fat weight is. So some of the things I've done have led to that, and kind of balanced themselves out at the weight I'm at now. So overall I feel pretty good. But again, I kind of watch it all the time. I'm trying to keep an eye on my calorie input and my physical activity output to kind of keep things balanced and how much I'm eating and what I'm doing on all those levels. So so that's where I'm at on that. Okay, well, that's all I got for this week. I'm going to try to have another guest in here to start the show next time. I got to reach out to her this week, and hopefully she can get in here, and we can talk about the importance of pets in our lives. Hopefully she'll be willing to do it. If not that time, then I'm going to throw out a bunch of dates and see if she'll be happy to come in and talk about that, because I think that's another important part for some of us is our pets. I know it is for me, because I have a whole house full of dogs, and although they're a pain in my rear sometimes, seeing them at the end of the day really does help out. So again, always tune in every other Tuesday. I'll be back on let's take a look at the handy dandy calendar here. I do believe that will be, I know you guys are like, God, every time that guy comes in there, he's like not prepared for anything. What a knucklehead. Let's see here. Should be May the 2nd. We'll tune back in here. Oh, I've actually got a VA appointment that day. So we'll probably not be a show on May the 2nd, guys. My next one will probably be May the 16th, unfortunately. So it's probably going to be a month, because I'm going to be in Tucson on May the 2nd. Know that for a dead fact. So my next show will not be until May 16th. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to take a short break on it. Is what it is sometimes. Got to go take care of some health-related issues at the VA. So anyway, until May 16th, when we will see each other again, dream big, dare to fail, because fortune always, always favors the bold. Y'all take care now. We'll see you again next time, okay?